Welcome to St. Matthias Anglican Church. We're glad you stopped by, and we're hoping to start a conversation with to get to know you, and you get to know us a little bit, so you can find out what makes us distinct. And we'd love to have you worship with us sometime. Anyway, one of the first questions that oftentimes arises is people will say, "Okay, so St. Matthias, um, Anglican Church. What is Anglicanism?" Maybe they haven't heard that term a lot. Well, it's a long and rich tradition going back into the Church of England, and you see it quite a bit in the United States. But a term you possibly might have heard more often is Episcopal or Episcopalian. And once upon a time, those Anglican, Episcopalian, those might have been more synonymous terms because they have this shared history going back into the to the Church of England, going back into the Christian spirituality of the British Isles that goes back long before Henry VIII wanted a break with the Roman Catholic Church. Anyway, about 100 years, up to about 100 years ago, Episcopal and Anglican were basically synonymous terms in many ways, having such a shared history. But over the course of the 20th century, you started seeing a philosophical divergence within that tradition, to the point that over the course of the 20th century, you saw that migration get to the point where now, if you come across a church and it has Episcopal in the name, there's no guarantees about this, but it's more likely than not that you'll come across something a little bit more philosophically progressive, wanting to keep with cultural trends, a little bit more malleable in keeping with the times. Whereas if it has Anglican in the name, there's more likely than not you're going to encounter something more traditional, something like us that maintains historic Christian beliefs and Christian ethics, maintaining that the Word of God is central to our worship and that the chief expression of that is the sacraments that have been administered over the course of millennia. Anyway, so people have heard of Episcopal, people have heard of Anglican. Now, and those terms used to be synonymous, now they represent very different philosophies that maintain this tradition that goes back into the Church of England and maintains that tradition to this day. So the next question that comes up is people will ask, are you Catholic? I mean, you look like it and you have a liturgical worship. And that's a good question. One of the ways to explain that is there are really three ancient traditions that refer to themselves as Catholic. There's the Orthodox tradition that tends to be very ethnically specific, like the Russian Orthodox Church, the Greek Orthodox, and so forth. And they refer to themselves as Catholic. Catholic just basically meaning according to the whole, and maintaining traditions that go back to the first 1,000 years of the church, where the church was one before it started. Many of the major splits began to occur. That's the Orthodox Church. They refer to themselves as a Catholic tradition. There's very most commonly known is the Roman Catholic Church. Many people have heard of that. That's really, they've been very effective in their marketing and be able to kind of show themselves and have a presence throughout the world. But the Anglican tradition, excuse me, also refers to itself as Catholic, basically an Anglo-Catholic tradition, because it maintains a lot of those same liturgies and traditions and expressions of Christianity that and the sacraments to symbolize all of our faith, going back again 2,000 years. So you'll see a lot of cross-pollination between these type of Catholic traditions, but the Anglican tradition is one of those that comes specifically out of the British Isles, or the Church of England, if you will. It's somewhat decentralized. There's not a pope for the Anglican world, but we do have bishops. We have those who are regional pastors and administrators over regional areas and specific jurisdictions. We have a bishop that in our diocese that we listen to and answer to, and who leads and guides us as well. So in many ways, yes, this Anglo-Catholic tradition maintains a lot of that type of liturgy, imagery, and people will come and visit a service. And one of the things I'll comment on is, how Catholic it seems to them because of what their perception is of what a Catholic service might be. And then understanding a little bit more over time, realizing, this is actually something that the Church of England and the Anglo-Catholic tradition is something that really is reminiscent of all the great traditions that I've seen and heard about from various different media, that for other traditions that are ancient and going back, to the time of Christ. So the question comes up, people will say, okay, you've explained Anglicanism, you've also described yourself as Anglo-Catholic, but what about your church? Is it formal? Is it traditional? What is it like visiting St. Matthias Anglican Church? I'll tell you that we maintain those type of traditions that are, again, time-tested and aren't there are many ways in which we want to have our fellowship and be representative of the wiregrass around us. But specifically in our worship, we maintain things that aren't that are older than us. We use a hymnal that was published in 1940 for our music. We use the 1928 Book of Common Prayer, uh, which contains our service and many of the prayers that we use throughout in morning and evening prayer throughout the week, and also for our Sunday Holy Communion service. And in this way, we know that we can maintain fidelity to classic Christian worship. Understanding that innovations, while seemingly creative and fun at the time, do eventually wind up getting you somewhat afield of what is going to be the historic faith you really wanted to maintain, while the culture around you is in flux. But along with that, though, we maintain that people need to know their faith. They need to know the Word of God. So we have Sunday school all the time. So where people are, both children and adults, are learning the Bible for themselves, so they can understand that all this liturgy and all these symbols, understand what it is communicating. You want to be able to be in a worship service and say, oh, I see what you did there. That represents something I know from the Word of God. So that's why our emphasis is on studying the Bible and knowing the scriptures for ourselves. But in addition to that, we also are heavily invested in our fellowship time. We want to make sure that people are getting together to hang out with one another. We have ladies' night, we have men's night. We have ways in which to that informal time of getting together with one another to really enjoy each other's company. And in that sense, we oftentimes will quip that, while our hearts are raised up into the heavens, if we keep, our feet are firmly planted on the ground, because Christ himself, being Emmanuel, God with us, is really seemed to take on, well, he did take on full humanity and endorse human fellowship in that regard. And so in that way, we maintain this balance of the tradition and the rich liturgy that we maintain in worship, along with all those informal times of gathering and enjoying fellowship time. So we're located on O'Brien Park Drive. You see on our website the address 108 O'Brien Park Drive, and that's a loop that goes behind Watley Boulevard. And I'm very proud of the local fire department. So I oftentimes joke that we are neighbors to Dothan Fire Department Station 3. We are right behind them. Now we have our Sunday morning services are 9 a.m. Sunday school, but our main Eucharistic, our service, our Holy Communion Mass is at 10 a.m. And then throughout the week we have a number of different services as well. We have morning prayer Monday through Thursday at 8 a.m. And then in the evening time we have evening prayer. Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. With Wednesday evening, we have a Mass at 6 p.m. That's spoken service. We don't, for time's sake and for just to keep things variety, we don't include music at that time. But that's where people find that they're able to come for communion service after work. Anyway, so those weekend and Sunday services and throughout the week, we want plenty of opportunities to worship, and we want to facilitate those ways in which people connect with Christ. So come join us for our Sunday morning Mass or one of our midweek services. I'm Father Aaron Ott, and I look forward to meeting you. God bless.